Hello, and welcome to the Rollwise Podcast, the weekly show that explores all things tabletop RPGs and more, apparently. My name is Mike, one of your hosts, and I'm joined by Brent
Hello, everybody.
and Jeff,
Hey everyone.
our two gaming aficionados. Let's go ahead and we're going to get started this week by just having a general discussion. We've been talking about Fabula Ultima the last few weeks, so this week we thought we'd go a little bit less structured, but we are going to start this conversation off one jumping off point, and that is going to be the new release of the Magnus Archives. They have partnered with Monty Cook Games, and they are putting out a role-playing game, and they just launched a Kickstarter. So first of all, who's listened to any of the Magnus Archive at any capacity? Brent, have you heard any of their episodes or anything like that?
I have listened to, I think, one or two episodes, but they didn't stick with me, so I'm not sure if I'm the best to talk about it.
Oh, all right. Well, that's okay. So maybe this is an introduction for you guys and them. So the first thing is that so the Magnus Archives, it's a podcast. I think they're in their fifth season. They've had 5 seasons totals of this audio drama that they do. And it's put out by Rusty Quill, which is the production company that is behind Magnus Archives and a few other things. They've done some other stuff, and I've heard it on Spotify. This is the one that stuck with me the most, and I am just a casual listener. So if anybody's out there and they're listening, and they're like, "I am the Magnus Archives," like I'm an archivist myself. I'm just right there next to the main guy, Jonathan Sims or whatever his name is. That's you can out nerd me on this 100%. I'm only a casual listener. I don't even think I've completed the first season, but I was listening to it with my child when he was doing tummy time. So he may also have a little bit of the eldritch squirming around up there right now. Who knows? But no, it's actually a good audio drama, and I think that what I found to be interesting for me about this was the fact that the Magnus Archives, there's this guy, Jonathan Sims, who basically opens up this old dusty archive, and he starts going through all the just random crap on paper, and he starts transcribing it to digital stuff, and that's how you get these stories that basically happen. And then, of course, during the course of the story and the postscript from the story, he talks about like, well, we tried to verify the claims, we did some follow-ups, but obviously due to time, due to other things, we weren't able to credibly ascertain whether this was a real thing or not. And so a lot of the times they're kind of taken from the perspective of, well, it's a fantastical story, but I'm just reading what somebody told us. It's not really that real. So, Brett, do you happen to remember the episodes that you listened to or anything?
I don't remember them. No, I know there's 2 that you specifically liked. I haven't had a chance to listen to them yet.
Oh man. So the 2 that I liked, I like Piecemeal quite a bit. And I just actually listened to them both today when I went to the park, and I was like listening to those, watching the little guy run around on the play structure. I was like, well, this is weird. But the first one, actually, when I re-listened to it, it had some good stuff in it, because the episode is called Piecemeal, and it's about a guy who, due to circumstances, starts losing body parts. And that's, I don't know, like if you guys have major phobias, but like getting amputated, losing a finger, something like that has always been pretty high up on my fears list. So that one kind of hits a special note. And then the other one it's literally they're sequential episodes. So I basically had 2 of my fears like hit back to back while listening to this stuff. And the other one being like getting into a cave, going through one of those subterranean spelunking missions, and you're kind of crawling through one of those squeeze holes, and you're like, oh, it's too narrow, I'm stuck.
Well, like, as a fat guy, I don't fear that, because I would never, ever, ever think I could squeeze through shit in a cave.
Well, but just the way that they told that story, like the Lost John's Cave, I believe it is, and how they mentioned like, oh, well, you have to go through this, and there are these things called squeeze holes, which are tight, and then there's the super squeeze where you can barely breathe as you're inching your way through it, shoulder rubbing and kind of doing all that stuff. And I'm just like, and already like my stomach is just kind of churning from the nervous anxiety that's building as we're going through the story. And I'm like, I'm not going to like how this goes. I know that.
I mean, those stories like the movies like The Descent and those movies, and then some other like YouTube videos I've watched on cave horror stories, like this one guy that I read about that just got lost in an underground complex, and then the college class he was with just fucking left him. And they're like, it's the buddy system. And his buddy was like, oh, I thought he was with somebody else. And I was like, you have fucking failed at your buddy system job, you moron. But anyways, yeah. So like, no, that's terrifying. The thought of just being lost in like the dark, and like there's just so much weight above you, and it's so claustrophobic, and there's tight squeezes. But as a fat guy, again, I just would be like, no, I'm not going to go in that cave.
Yeah.
The ground would have to fall out from under my feet and find me in a cave. And then I would probably be like, I guess I'm going to wait near this hole and hope someone comes and saves me.
and hope somebody walks by and goes, there wasn't this hole here before.
Yeah, because I'm not squeezing my ass through any of these openings. So, but I get the tension. Like, I do understand the tension, but yeah, I'm just like,
well, and then there's one part where it one-ups itself, because then in addition to it being a underground tight, then they have to go through those tunnels, those where the tunnels have like pooled water, and you have to kind of go under and then come out on the other side. And I'm like, you had me at the tunnel squeeze. Now you're putting me underwater in the dark, where you have to just kind of feel your way forward to this unknown distance until you get to the other side, and you're like, oh, I made it, yay. Bumping your head trying to get out, and no oxygen. Yeah, come on. So Jeff, what about you? Are you much of a spelunker?
No, I have weird bouts with claustrophobia. Like, there's times where I'm fine, and there's times where it's more a feeling than the actual. Like, there's times where I'm fine in enclosed spaces. It's really a mindset thing with me. So I've done like the Lewis and Clark caverns here. I've gone through those, and I was okay. I think I'd be okay if I did it again. So like, some of that stuff is all right, but I think everybody, like, when you're in a place like that and you're dependent on artificial light to see anything, you know what I mean? And you don't know, like, the path you're on may continue at the size that it is, and it may suddenly shrink down where you just have to take it on faith that you can get through.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things.
It's horrifying.
It's one of those things that it's like, it's a completely inhospitable human environment, really. And it's one of those things, as you take things away, that's why it becomes kind of a horror story, like being trapped in space or being trapped underwater or something like that. It's like you are in a place that does not want you there, and will do things to make it so you can't survive it. And that's what kind of like a cave, without like taking all of our human like advantages away, like light, would be. Yeah, that's horrifying. Like, yeah.
So I mean, that's just the kind of stories that exist within the audio drama podcast that they do. I mean, I can't say that like I said, I can't say that I've listened to all of them, but I was interested because I'm subscribed, and I get the Monty Cook blast emails that I'm sure other people get and all that. But I saw that they were doing this, and I opened up the email that day, and it pretty much had already been backed by the time I opened up the email. So
yeah, it's super popular.
So first of all, like, kudos to those guys for just really getting out there and having this game backed, because it does seem like an interesting horror setting that they're trying to use.
Sure.
Using the Magnus Archives is kind of the backdrop for you to investigate all these kind of weird, twisted, supernatural horror stories. And there are some threads, they have some things that have kind of made their way, some powerful artifacts that they describe and stuff like that exist within the world of the Magnus Archives. But right now, I mean, they're at like $1.2 million, and they have 22 days left out of $100,000 goal. So this is definitely going to be backed, and definitely see some books coming out at the end of next year, according to their timeline.
Monty Cook makes good games. So I guess you'll probably play as investigators. Is that what I'm gleaning from the Kickstarter and the primer?
Yeah, I assume so. I mean, I assume that you'd either play as the investigators that would kind of go on the stuff to verify all that's happening here. But that's what makes me a little bit curious about how the game is going to work, because the investigators don't get a lot of screen time per se. Usually what's happened is that, Jonathan Sims, the archivist, reads a statement from a person who comes sharing a trouble, right? My body parts are falling off. I have spiders in my skin, whatever it may be, right? So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do that. I mean, it seems like from the look of this, it's going to be a pretty like Call of Cthulhu style horror game, which I think it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not the hugest fan of the cypher system itself, which is what the rules system is going to be. But it looks interesting, and cypher system might be more interesting if you're doing a horror game than an action game. I found the action games of the cypher system not something that.
So which games did you play that used the cypher system? I'm not familiar with it.
Numenera was the biggest one.
Oh, okay.
It's a D20 system with a lot of the standard D20 tropes. One of the things that I did like about the system, and I wish more systems would do this, is the GM never rolls dice. It's all players rolling the dice.
Yeah.
And then GM intrusions. So that's pretty interesting.
But you might want to explain that a little bit more, because basically what happens is that the players are the ones that are kind of controlling what's happening after the GM sets the setting.
Yeah, it's all player.
And it is a little bit rules light in so much as that once the setting is set, and boy, good job, Mike, use your big words. Once the setting is out there, you say, I want to pick the lock on the door to get into this guy's house. And so the GM says, well, how hard is this to do? And then they go through this negotiated difficulty setting process that involves quite a bit of stuff from what I've read.
No, usually, well, in the Numenera, at least the old version of Numenera, so maybe this is outdated, the GM would set a difficulty. Yeah, and then you could spend resources like your XP and stuff like that, and ability resources to lower the difficulty, so you can make it be potentially successful.
So basically, they decide, oh, this is an easy task, and then you can ease it down to make it an even easier task to roll against on your D20. But you can also make it so that the DM can make it harder if it's raining or there's a spotlight or you're
the GM. Well, you both have resources to spend.
Yeah.
It's a game with a lot of meta currency in it, where the players have resources they can spend to try and make it easier, and the GM has resources he gives resources. The GM will say, I'm going to give you some XP to insert this difficulty. So if you're doing the lock, for example, the GM would say, I will give you, I think it's like up to 5 XP. I'll give you 5 XP if there's a dangerous trap on the lock. And then the player at that time can say, no, I don't want to risk it. Or they can take the XP and make the roll. The more difficult roll. So I think that's generally how, if anybody in the comments wants to correct us, please do, but I think that's generally how it works, if I remember.
Yeah, well, and honestly, I haven't really had a chance to play any of the cypher system games. I've just kind of read loosely on it. But the idea is I think that for this game they're going to take this and they are adding some specialized horror element stuff to it, so that they're not just using the cypher system as it is. They're kind of bolting on some.
Well, the cypher system is their general system, so it probably has extra systems already. That's their. Hey, this is the system we use. You can make any game with it. It's their.
It's their base.
It's their. What was the name of that?
Year Zero engine.
Basic role-playing, whatever the thing that we talked about a while ago.
Oh, basic role-playing.
It's that. The cipher book is just like that, and how to use it in different timelines. So it makes sense that that's what they would use.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, to tell you the truth, I am kind of curious to see how you would play it out, just because since it's really anthology and episodic,
You almost have to be the investigators, because you can't be the people that it's happening to, because those people, it would be very individualized stories then, it seems like. And
you wouldn't survive the story in many cases.
Well, that doesn't always matter in narrative games, but yeah. So yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah, no. So I think if anybody is looking for a game to basically back because you don't have anything better to do, then I might recommend backing this. They give you the digital copy, or you can, first of all, you can download a free primer so you can actually read about it and see if the tone, the types of rules and stuff like that you can have even are something you want to try to play. And then of course that depending on the back level you can get to just a digital copy. You can get a actual physical book, blah, 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 all the way up to like the $350 mega bundle that includes like a limited edition novella that goes with the thing, file folders for the Magnus Archive, props, dice cases, cards.
So you got 2 of those, Mike? You bet you did 2 of the 350s?
Yeah, that's, well, when our Patreon gets going, then sure.
the fabled Patreon.
Yeah,
I downloaded the primer. I was just looking at it, and that's one of the reasons I said I wasn't sure, because it talks about the player characters, but it doesn't talk about like what they do. Like, you can choose from, like, it says, oh, here you go. You can choose from 4 main character types: protector, investigator, elocutionist, and dabbler, which makes sense. So yeah, you're the investigators most likely. One of the things that I do think is neat about the cypher system, that I liked when I played it, is all of the characters are like, you pick a class, but the main thing about your character is I am a noun who verbs. Like, you describe your character by like, I am a researcher who gets nervous in the dark. Like that would be how you describe your character.
okay.
And then you get bonuses and things from that. So the cypher system is really kind of neat in that sense. I am a noun who verbs was something that I remembered for a long time because of the cypher system. Is a quick and dirty way to come up with a like character concept.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks interesting. And what I will say about Kickstarters or anything like that is, if you have enjoyed their product at all, either Monty Cook or the Magnus Archives, like throw them $5 or something like that. Like, I always suggest, in a case of art, writing, or anything like that, sometimes just supporting the creator to create is the least you can do.
Yeah, no, it's actually really, it's really cool to see them, producing this stuff. And like I said, I was happy to see that it reached such a high backing number so quickly, just because I feel like, the community should reward good games. And I really feel like everyone kind of branching out from D&D, they should take a look at these other games and give them a try. And if it's the right flavor. Now, are we saying this is going to be a good game? No, we're not guaranteeing that it's a good game, but it will probably have some really cool stuff that goes on your shelf, if anything. And
it'll probably be a good game.
It'll probably be fun, based on the cypher system.
It seems interesting. I just read the Kickstarter. Really quick while we were doing this, and it seems interesting.
I mean, Monty Cook is one of the biggest game designers, second or third biggest game designers for a reason. They put out good games.
Yeah. So, nobody can guarantee it's a good game, but we feel pretty confident that this will be a very solid entry into the cypher system.
Yeah, it might not be for everyone. I always give that caveat. It might not be for everyone, but it'll probably be a fun game for people that like that sort of thing.
Now, it is interesting, though, because as we said earlier, the Magnus Archives actually represents their second jump into translating a drama from basically a podcast source into a game,
an audio drama.
Yeah, they originally started with Old Gods of Appalachia, which you have listened to more than I have, I believe, right, Brent? That was one of you.
I listened to a few episodes. I have a hard time with just the story style podcast for some reason.
Oh, really?
Like, I can listen to audiobooks, and I enjoy audiobooks, but like the episodic podcast story reading drama, like audio dramas, it takes a lot to get me into. So I listened to a few episodes, and it was good. Like, it was interesting. Again, it was an interesting setting.
Yeah. And for anybody that's not aware, it basically is like, since it's the Old Gods of Appalachia, it's basically eldritch horror in, 1900s coal town, Appalachian Mountains, Yeah,
it's eldritch horror and rednecks.
Yeah.
Or sure. Hill folk, if you will.
Eldritch horror in the hill folk in the 1900s. I felt like the the few episodes that I listened to were pretty decent. You know, they were pretty gripping, and I have to say that that's always the part that impresses me is the ability of some people to create an absolutely immense production value for what probably isn't like a huge amount of, like, they don't have like the Disney studios or something like that. They have just a good setup, and they create just amazing stories, and the podcast is a really easy way to disseminate those.
Since we're kind of talking about audio drama podcasts, one that I did listen to that I absolutely loved, and this is a tangent away from the role-playing game part of our discussion, is there's one called the Deca Tapes, which is a science fiction one. I listened to that whole thing, and it was absolutely brilliant. It's about people stuck on a spacecraft. You should look that one up, and I would suggest if anybody's into sci-fi, that's definitely one I would give a listen to. And I think it's written all by one guy. There's a couple different voice actors, but I think it was a pretty lower budget product that came off really, really well.
How do you spell Deca, just in case anybody?
Let me go find it.
Because if you, apparently the Deca Tapes is also by the Beatles. DECCA.
DECA.
Okay.
It was the first one that came up when I didn't add an extra C in there.
Well, it could be just that my computer's likes adding extra
adding letters.
Yeah, it's really bad about extra T's for some reason. Add one or two T's here or there.
The thing is, like, its tagline is an 8-part mystery story. Recordings have surfaced of 10 people that are locked in the same space together. We don't know who they are or if they'll get out.
No, I actually listened to The Cleaner and The Teacher for this one.
Yeah, it's very good in my opinion.
Yeah, and unlike the Magnus Archives, which has like 100 and some odd episodes, this has 8, so a little.
Yeah, it's very short, concise story. It's I really enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah,
that's my suggestion. That's my audio drama suggestion for everybody. And then I will always shout out Welcome to Night Vale as a absolutely unhinged podcast, fun podcast to listen to.
Yeah. And Jeff, what about you, man? We've got some of the podcasts that we've been throwing out there. Any audio dramas that have tickled your fancy lately?
No, honestly, I've never fully gotten into audio drama podcasts. If I'm going to listen to made up stuff, it's probably going to be an audiobook.
Usually me too. There's a few that, and like I said, Deca Tapes is different. It caught my interest for some.
Yeah, it feels like a weird distinction to make. And maybe it's just because I'm old, but if I listen to a podcast, it's usually going to be about, I want to find out information about stuff that I want to know. And if I want story time, I'm, supporting. I understand that they're authors. I'm not trying to, if you have a podcast, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm happy to try some stuff out. I've just never found anything like that fully grab me.
Yeah, it's definitely a difference in media. Like, there is a difference. I have a hard time putting on like identifying the difference as well. Like I said, I have no idea why I haven't listened to the Magnus Archives, but something about it doesn't hit me the same way as like an audiobook does. So yeah, no, I totally get it. And the reason that the reason that Welcome to Night Vale does is because it's just so weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, really strange. And it hits that sort of like part of my brain that like Terry Gilliam and all of those like weird authors do. Like, they always go so Welcome to Night Vale is done from the like a radio host is talking about town, and he's doing like public announcements is what he does a lot of the times, like, beware the green cloud floating over the elementary school. If you look directly into the green cloud, you may die. Like, just stuff like that, like just weird random stuff about Night Vale. And there's always this part in every podcast where it's like, and now it's time for the weather, and then they play a song, like just some song that they enjoyed that they put into the podcast. It's just so weird, and that's one of the reasons I liked it. And I don't listen to it regularly, like I wouldn't listen to episode after episode, but like occasionally I pick it up and I listen to a few episodes of Welcome to Night Vale. just to be inspired. And someday I do want to go. They do have a stage show that I would like to go to someday. A welcome night.
Where's that at? Is that
they tour around the United States. I was going to go to one before COVID because there was going to be one in Vegas that like happened just like after COVID, which I don't think we're supposed to say that on YouTube, so feel free to beep that out later. But anyways, editor. But so all their tour dates got canceled that I had planned on going to. So
okay. Well, unfortunately during that time, there's a lot of things that got put on pause. I do have to say, I was reading an article speaking about the C word that shall not be named. I really don't know
that thing that should not be named. I just know that all the YouTubers say that they shouldn't say that word. So,
but since we're not YouTube, wait, are we? No, just kidding. But I was reading an article. I actually saw this on Dicebreaker that was talking about how, since the lockdown and everything like that, people like there was a much higher interest in tabletop games. And they said 40% people are playing more tabletop games since before the lockdown, with D&D interest increasing up to 85%. And I was like, well, it makes sense. I mean, a lot of people were looking for something to do while kind of stuck at home. And it seems like a lot of people discovered some version of games or tabletop games or something like that. And they say that this was done by Merchoid, which involved entertainment fans and everything like that. But what was actually kind of neat to me, though, is that like when you look at like Gen Con and everything like that, it saw its largest ever attendance. It had over 70,000 people arriving in Indianapolis. And it's like going to the convention and all that stuff. And I cannot imagine what kind of chaos that would have been. Like that would have been so cool.
Yeah, big conventions are crazy. Like when I was going to the LVO, like the last time I went to the LVO, I think the main event tournament for 40K was over 1,500 people or something like that. And that's not even like we're not even talking the same, not even close to the same numbers, but like it's a lot, like just a mass of nerds is always just kind of amazing. And they're always kind of cool too, because like you all share a common interest, so there's always something to talk about.
Well, and it's neat too, because especially the types of personalities that come out and everything like that. Here, in Southern California, we have Comic-Con. That's the big deal. I'm sure that's a big convention. Over in Baltimore, they have a huge convention, a big anime convention. What the hell was that called?
I think you told me about it, but I don't remember what it was either.
I'll have to remember what the name is. Let's see. Well, it's not Baltimore Comic-Con. But it was, I don't remember what the hell it was called. I don't know why. Obviously, it was one of those things where it was like, I wanted to go to, Otakon, of course. That's the one. I wanted to go to it, but it was one of those things where it's just like, I like going to conventions, but I also find them kind of exhausting a little bit. And I just didn't have the ability to coordinate. But I had some friends that actually were working the hospitality suite there. And so like I met them downtown, and it's actually one of those really fun things when you have like those conventions where people like get dressed up and they're like 1000% into it. Cause you could just literally be on the street and it was like watching a cosplay, show as people were just walking by and everyone's kind of exuberant and all that stuff. Yeah, it was awesome. I like it. We'll have to see if we can't eventually, suggest to people to help us get to Gen Con at some point in our lives.
Yeah. We should, and you all should listen to us suggesting it.
Yeah, we don't have a Patreon or anything like that, but who knows? Maybe one day, maybe we'll get that Ko-fi or Ko-fi,
or GoFundMe. Everybody has GoFundMes these days.
Is that a legitimate reason to GoFundMe? Is like, hey, we're 3 guys that want to go see Gen Con, please.
It's as legitimate as almost anything else on there, I think.
I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I just don't want it to be like, well, since you had everybody buy your trip, now you owe taxes on this gift or something.
Well, that might be a thing, but I think
that's possible.
I think GoFundMe takes a reasonable size piece as well.
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, if we get there, we get there. If we don't,
but conventions are fun. Like I said, 40K conventions are a little different because like I said, 1,500 people was just the main event, and there was smaller satellite events that people only attended. So it was probably 5,000 people. The last one I went to, but it's fun, and the 40K events are always interesting to me because like you basically see people who it's like, oh my god, that person is way more competitive than I could ever even imagine being. And then there's other guys that go, oh, that guy is a way better painter than I could ever imagine being. Because there's some armies that are just like, holy shit, how long did that take?
Yeah,
I've been painting it my entire life. Oh, well, it looks like it. So,
hey, but you know what? That's okay. Every time I stop by the war game, the mini painting subreddit, I'm always blown away by how it feels like everyone is apparently just right outside entering for like a golden demon, and I look like I, just dropped my minis in the paints and forgot them.
Well, people do only post them if they think they look good. I will say that. Very rarely do people go, hey, it looks like I painted this with a sponge and my head. Very, very rarely do people post those. Although I have seen them where it's like they just headbutted the mini for 30 minutes with paint on it.
That seems random.
Seems like how I paint. I didn't know I was on there. Oh, but that's okay. So
the key to painting miniatures is just find a technique that you like, practice it a few times, and you can get it to tabletops. If you like it, it's good enough. Tabletop standard and your preference is all you need to do.
Except I'll never like it if I paint it.
Well,
I will never be satisfied.
There's a lot more to unpack there than minis, Jeff.
I
know. And I don't think we're going to actually.
I don't think we're going to solve. I don't think we're going to solve that problem tonight. So,
I mean, okay, Jeff, lay back.
Because as somebody who's painted and done paintings and does figure painting, like I have a moment where it's like, nah, I think that's good enough for me. Especially with miniature painting, because you could paint miniatures over and over again forever. Like, and there is a point where it just gets overworked. So.
I believe that I believe. Like, I'm not saying that I would continue to paint forever. I'm saying that nobody would ever see them because I'd be like, this is garbage.
Wow.
And if I show it to anybody and they tell me it's anything other than garbage, then they're just lying to me to try to make me feel bad. I'm just being placated.
Okay, we should, like I said, there's a lot to unpack here. And I think we probably aren't going to do it on the podcast.
Next topic.
All right. Well, if anybody happens to want to help Jeff make his way through these things, don't. We'll move on. He's got to work through that on his own. Okay. So I guess I was actually kind of curious, since we've talked about some backer stuff. When is Eat the Reich come out?
December, I believe.
December? Because I had read something a little bit about it. The guy, Grant Howitt, is I think the main driving force behind it, or at least the writer.
Well, the publishing company is Rowan, Rook, and Deckard.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's the main writer, if I remember right.
Something like that. And I was looking at him on Twitter, and somebody had mentioned something about Eat the Reich, and basically something about here's the tweet I thought was funny. It was like, wait till you read the rules engine it's based off of. Spend more time kvetching about pronouns than explaining mechanics, and then when you understand the mechanics, boy, you realize it's an impossible to lose style of RPG. Then of course Grant responds, "Oh, you've read it? I thought it wasn't out yet." and then the person responded with a sea shanty.
Well, the book, their Havoc engine, which is what they're saying is the engine that they're using for this, is based off of another rule set that they did publish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and so that's probably what the guy's talking about. But I think they've changed it a lot for this, because that rule set is kind of esoteric.
Well, and even if it was, I mean, like, I think the person, the sea shanty, which I don't want to say for copyright reasons, I'd hate to be copyright struck for singing here. But, they're talking about historics, revision, pain in the rear, Vaps cannot die, and Nazis are glass. And it's like, and people are kind of like, well, who did they think won World War II? I mean, obviously, like, I mean, is this an alternate reality where Hitler wins unless the vampires don't get him? Like, I don't know, man. But so December.
It sounds and it sounds like a fun pulp game. I don't think you have to think about it that much.
So based on what I read, though, isn't it just is it like, do you get to make characters, or do you have to use the pre?
You only get their 6 characters. They'll give you ways. I think one of their stretch goals is to write like an overview of like what you can do to change them up and personalize them more. But like they really focused on these are your 6 vampire characters. So these are like this is like a one-shot game, which is one of the reasons why I'm interested in it. And you can make new games, but it's definitely more one-shot oriented, I think.
Okay. Now
cinematic violence is their focus.
So just out of curiosity, is this like a self-contained adventure where you're out to drink Hitler's blood and like that's like the 3rd act, or is it?
No, I believe it's not one adventure. I believe it's a system to run these games, but they have set characters to run in a myriad of games of this.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like, I consider it like it would be a good one-shot or con game, or multiple one-shots. I don't know if it's necessarily like a campaign style game. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of hoping at some point what they do is they decide to like write a second book, a player's guidebook that has ways to make characters and stuff like that, kind of like some other games have done in the past when they've kind of done this like focused on these player characters type thing. The guys that wrote it have wrote several other really successful games, Spire and Heart. Mm-hmm. Like those are pretty popular games. So
on my list to read at some point in my life, I really like the artwork for those games, honestly.
Yeah.
But just so many things out there though.
Well, and they're heavy, and the artists are heavy heavy meta. I won't say meta plot, but they're heavy themed. Like I believe Inspire is like rebellion is like the thing. Like you're rebelling against, was it Heart or Spire? I don't remember, but you're rebelling against the like people that control everything, and like that's the main like push of the game. So I think it's Heart. Because I think you're Dark Elves.
I don't know. I haven't read them. I've just heard of the games.
No idea.
But they're fairly popular. They're fairly popular. And the art is always magnificent in their books. That's one of the things that drew me to Eat the Reich is the art. So
yeah.
The art's cool.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it.
Good. Yeah. Well, that's all I got. I have been just otherwise I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 and thinking of ways to create story for Fabula Ultima, because apparently I'm all in on Fabula Ultima right now, and we'll see how long that lasts.
You are running 2 games currently that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I'm running 2 games and I'm playing in 1 game. So if everything works out, I've got another DM on the hook on Sundays, and I'll be playing in the Dresden Files RPG that's powered by Fate.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that game, it could be really interesting because, first of all, we'll be playing in Baltimore, which, having lived in Baltimore, it's kind of like I have a little bit of a sense of the place. And then I guess we're going to take a Shapeshifters alpha analog. If you've read the Dresden Files books, we're kind of like a misfit group of Shapeshifters that is going to be running a small cadre called the Midnight Menagerie or something like that.
I probably know who's running that game. And I remember one of my favorite games that I've ever been in. Actually, Jeff and I played a Dresden game with them. Where we
it was really good. Where we were first stuck, exposure to Fate.
Yeah, where we were stuck in the Colorado airport.
That's all good games start, really.
It was really cool and interesting. The characters are really neat. They were just pre-gens, but playing the priest sex vampire was kind of weird for me. And then Jeff played a elemental magician of some sort.
I don't remember. I remember yours. I remember yours because it was
over the
wild.
Top. Over the top.
It was over the top.
And not
out of character for you.
And not normally something I would play. Yeah. Yours was like a Japanese influenced like elemental, like Iron Magician or something like that. If I remember,
it was something like that. I just
I
just don't remember.
But it was a lot of fun. Fate can be a very fun system. Remember to abuse the rules as much as you can, which is the part that I had a problem with. Like
what do you mean?
you want to relate things as much as you can to your
Oh yeah,
your
to your
identities.
archetypes and all that
your
stuff.
identities, and that was like it sort of fought against the anti like power gamer part of me at first, and then until I got into it. But
yeah, no, it's like honestly, gosh, I never really had like a Fate phase or anything like that. So there wasn't like this point in time where that's all I played was Fate.
me neither.
So like I don't come into this with a lot of background with Fate, but the little Fate that I did play back several years ago was with this GM. But it's been so long that I don't remember anything.
Yeah, the Wild West game
or
Weird West game.
Was I there for that?
That was Fate. I think it was. Maybe you weren't.
I don't think I was there for that. I mean, I
wish
I was, but that would have been cool.
That was where I played my half Native American character that was supposed to be super cool, badass, and just turned out to be.
Oh yeah, no, I was there for that,
and he turned into comic relief for the rest of the party. And I think you were there too, Jeff.
You like the Conquistador helmet, though, right?
Yes, that was what happened. Is he became obsessed with this Conquistador helmet? That was because I couldn't be cool. So
well, we had to loot the Conquistadors when we defeated them.
Yeah. So my character wore a Conquistador helmet all the time, and he became this weird medicine man character, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was. I do remember that. That was many years ago, and I think that was literally the last time we played Fate. And I don't remember everything about like our characters on that one, but I do remember just like it was one of those games where I think it had like an idea like it was germinating, and then that idea just died pretty quick.
I played the native guy. He was half Native American and half African American, and supposed to be super cool and good at things, and he wasn't. And then Jeff played an Irish boxer, an old-timey Irish boxer. I don't remember what you played. And the other guy we were playing with played a gunslinger of some sort. I think you were like a lawyer or something. Like, were you a Pinkerton? I think you might have been a Pinkerton, now that I think about it.
Me?
Yeah, I think your character might have been. I think your character might have been a Pinkerton. It's definitely sad. It definitely rings a bell.
No.
I think you were a lawman, if I remember right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well, lawman is one way of putting it.
I think specifically Pinkerton came up, if I recall.
Pish posh. I think we can move on from that. No, honestly, I don't remember, but I think what I'm interested to play Fate for and just kind of understand the narrative, because it feels like we've been hitting a lot of like narrative heavy, rules light kind of games. And I'm just kind of curious to kind of like head like side by side them and stuff like that. Because right now when I'm running Fabula Ultima, I don't feel like the game is too challenging, and it seems like the hardest part about it is to how to keep the flow when you guys are doing stuff, and I have to kind of figure out skill checks on the fly where I just have to combine two skills to make sense of it and not have it be like, why did you combine might and willpower when that's obviously not what it should be, that kind of thing.
It's the same sort of system where you make an argument for it. Like if I say, well, in Fabula Ultima, I could see a situation where like you move the rock out of the way. How do you do it? Well, I just push on it, so it's might plus might.
Yeah.
Versus, well, I get a bar and I make the
physics this thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, roll insight plus dex
plus
or
might.
might or something like that. And Fate's kind of like that, where like you just relate to your thing. I think you'll really enjoy it. I really enjoyed his Dresden games.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because using the game that we had here and kind of going with the Baltimore stuff, since we're all going to go with the shape changers and everything like that, we have a were raven, thematically appropriate for Baltimore, a were goat, and then a were fox. We didn't decide to go with the ubiquitous werewolf for some reason.
Why did you pick goat?
Why? I didn't pick a goat. And the other one just saw a video of a screaming goat, I think, on YouTube. And
which one? What did you pick? Is what I was trying to get at.
Oh, were raven, obviously.
Oh, okay, you're the raven. Okay.
Yeah. Well, it thematically made sense, and then it allowed me to wrap up into the backstory something about ravens and Edgar Allan Poe. So I thought that would be fun.
That will be fun.
Yeah, and
no, you'll enjoy that game.
Maybe a little dark. Who knows? We'll see. Depressing.
I think you'll enjoy that game because it was. It probably will be depressing, but
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, he runs a good Dresden style game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're excited. It's going to be a little bit episodic. He tried to run an epic game with us last year. That because of time constraints and everything like that, made it really tough to get everybody in the same room. And so, like, I hate it when an epic game kind of peters out because, like, you just are like, you run into the scheduling conflict monster, and then you come back 2 months later and you're like, okay, you're in a desert, you're looking around.
Well, that was partially my fault because
this isn't you. This is the other.
Well, the first one, and then I stopped
one.
showing up, and then you did this other one, and then it sounds like people stopped showing up for that too.
Well, yeah, it just got summer. Like people started going camping instead of playing role-playing games for some reason, and enjoying family time.
There's a lot of memes on online about getting gaming groups together, and there's reasons for that.
And we suffered through all of them. So we took like a 6-month hiatus, and then he tried to like recap what we were doing, and I was like, I don't remember any of this.
I don't remember any of this.
Like I usually take reasonable notes and all that stuff, but I looked for my notes, I couldn't find them, and then it's just like what was that Lord of the Rings meme? Like, this is all unfamiliar to me. Like,
yeah.
Like Gandalf walking through Moria. Jeez. Yeah, so that's what we're playing. You guys on your second Fabula game, we'll see if you guys can make them legally distinct from each other. But I liked the idea that you guys are running with Ancient Temple of the Sacred Flame. Did you guys discuss out your characters and
no, because mine's totally changed from some of the talk we had.
Yeah. Did you tell Jeff about it at all?
I haven't yet. I'm working on a message to you, Jeff.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of curious what I'm going to do for prologues. I think, Brent, your prologue is just going to be sitting in a room thinking.
Makes sense, really.
Sitting in a room.
Well, I mean, he was imprisoned in the bottom of the monastery, so
that's what he's going with. And so it's just like, so Brent, you count the number of drips today.
And being's two of his descriptors are non-human abomination. It's not like he can go out and talk to people.
Yeah. As always, when you wake up, you grab a rock and notch another mark on the wall. You've lost count.
Try and memorize voices of people that are mean to you so you can bite their faces off later.
And you only have one voice to remember about who's being nice. Dun,
Exactly.
dun, dun. That kind of thing. So yeah, so that's a little treat for you, Jeff, is that you get to see Brent's new character, which I think it'll be pretty fun. I think
it'll be interesting. That's for sure.
So would you feel like that saying Red 13 from Final Fantasy VII would be too much of a giveaway, or is that...
No, it's pretty close to that. I mean, he's a the way I've designed him, Jeff, now is he's kind of a black manticore, like a big lion with a vaguely human face, and a tail with he just has this like ghost light
spiky tail.
No, he has a ghost like death light on the end of his tail.
Okay, that's cool.
Because he's 3 levels in Entropomancer and 2 levels in Fury. So
I looked at the entropy stuff. So that should be neat.
He's a weird shadow monster cat nightmare thing.
So with the with this, you went and the Entropist, and which one did you go with?
Fury.
Oh, okay.
Well, because he's an animal, and that was the closest too.
That felt like the closest that you could really do.
Yep. When I was trying to make him more humanoid, I was like, well, do I give him a sword and make him a weapon master? And then I was like, that felt like stepping on too many toes. I think half the group has levels in weapon master.
There's at least 2 levels of weapon master. I think there might actually be 3 running between 2 people. So you could have added. I mean,
I think Fury will be nice and different. And then I'll just be pissed I didn't take weapon master and not hitting anything. So
you can still hit stuff. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I have spells. I have spells now to back myself up on that. So
right.
Did you what spell did you take from Entropist?
I took Drain Vitality, because like vaguely vampirism type stuff. Drain Vitality, Dark Weapon, and the fortune telling one. Divination, yeah. Because that sounded. I think I can give people.
You can basically when they perform a check, if it's not a fumble or a critical success, you can force them to re-roll both dice.
Yep.
And then once you force 2 re-rolls that way, then the spell ends. Okay. Yep. Well, that's interesting because with you being in the Entropist and I think Corbin being the Dark Blade, it's kind of a little more edgy in the JRPG group than I was expecting, but that's okay. Can't all be flowers and sunshine, I guess.
I think I took a nice thing though. Did I take hope as this thing? I can't remember. But yeah.
All right. Hey man, it's whatever you want to do for it. I'm just excited to start.
Maybe it was justice in that he defends anyone weaker than you. That might be it.
That could be.
I can't remember.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I have a lot of work to get prepped for this next week.
But I figure Drain Vitality is good for, pseudo vampire manticore shadow monster.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, I think you described it. It's basically you biting into them, using those giant pearly whites.
I have
a spell.
I have plans, and then the dark bullet or dark weapon. I think all of his attacks, darkness attacks. So
yeah, no, that's good.
It'll be interesting.
And then Jeff is choosing the quintessential red mage.
Yeah, I thought I'd play something a little different. Nobody was really doing more casting. I mean, it's a storytelling game, so the weapon stuff doesn't, The
spells are all pretty cool.
Hung up on it. Yeah, there's some cool spells. So we'll see how that goes.
Now that had you taking some elementalist, if I remember, or no?
No, I did. Hang on. Yeah, no, elementalist and spiritist, and then 1 level in weapon master, mainly for melee weapon mastery. I may change up the spells just a little bit, but if I do, I'll send you. I'm going to take a closer look at some other things.
Yeah, no, the spiritualist is interesting because it's the quote unquote healer class of the game. And so it could definitely add some survivability to the party. Because I mean, I do have to say that this is Fabula Ultima has its moments of you need to kind of have some balance in the party because it's real easy to perish otherwise.
Well, I definitely heal me, but I need my mind points for other things.
And I have a way to heal myself. So
yeah. It's true, and Brenda's correct. I can't just outright kill you, but I can capture you.
And drain vitality works on other players, so I think I'm fine.
I can't wait for this to happen.
Do we just look at the other 2 players and go, I got mine, you get yours?
Is everyone asleep, Mike? Yes. Okay, I'm going to send you a private message now.
Right, safety tools. Don't violate the other players. And on that note, so we've got a few weeks of Fabula Ultima incoming, and I think after that we're kind of looking for maybe another game to try out on our Monday nights. If anybody has any suggestions as to games they want to play, otherwise we'll keep on looking and see what we want to give a crack at. Brent may want to run us through something at some point. I think he was going to give us a
few games that we've tried before that maybe we'll do, or a few games that are new.
Yeah. So I guess we can go ahead and put this one in the can or something. And you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
No, I thought we covered some good stuff.
I think we're good to do the sign-offs.
All right, whatever that was.
Well, there's more than one, so
sign off stuff.
That's Brent's way of asking in the Patreon if he can get a soundboard so he can do cool sound effects.
Oh man, you don't want me doing sound effects during the show.
Oh Jesus! And with that, Jeff, do you want to tell people how they can get a hold of us?
Yeah, if you'd like to get a hold of us on X, God, that seems so
Twitter
weird to say. X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Facebook. Why am I blanking? Threads, yes,
Instagram.
and Instagram. It is at Rollwise. And if you want to email us, it's rollwiseguys@gmail.com.
Sweet. And of course, we are live streaming on Mondays. Technology available if it's available for us to do that. So come check us out. 8 p.m. No, yeah, 8 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to just hang out, if you want to see us game, if you want to see how we game, yeah, we'll be there.
We do watch the chat as best we can.
Yeah, and we're not shy. So stop by. Don't be afraid to interrupt us. We're half gaming.
Let's say you can't interrupt us. Let's instead of saying that there are no interruptions, just happy mistakes. I don't know. Don't copyright strike me for that because it belongs to somebody else. But anyways,
yeah, whatever. Just if you want to jump in chat and say hello, we might not respond to you immediately, but we'll do our best to kind of say hello. Unless we're just shooting the breeze, then of course we'll catch up with you.
Yeah, and if at some point you want to have more just us talking to chat, if people show up, we might do some shows like that. So just let us know.
Yep. So Brett, I think that calls to you. Drop the curtain or something.
The sign-offs. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with us. If you made it this long, we do appreciate it as always. Well, we appreciate it if you didn't make it this long too, but you won't hear it. So, whatever. But thank you as always. And again, as always, roll well, roll wise, and be safe out there.
All right.
See you
Bye,
next
everybody.
time.
See ya.